All right, we'd like to welcome Patrick Cantlay to the Media Center at the Fedex St. Jude Championship. Patrick, you're entering the week ranked 11th in the FedEx Cup standings. Can you start us off with some thoughts about your 9th return to the FedEx Cup playoffs?
Yeah, always good to make the playoffs, and we've been here in Memphis the last few years, starting it off. Played well last year in this tournament. Looks like we're going to get, classic Memphis in August weather. It'll be hot. Hopefully dodge some thunderstorms, and should be a good week.
Like you said, you had a great performance here last year as a runner-up in a playoff. Can you take us back to last year for a moment and then just talk about your return to TPC Southwind, maybe some things you like about this course?
Sure. Yeah, I think the golf course is good. It demands, really good driving of the golf ball this week. I mean, you have to play from the fairway here. The rough, with it being Bermuda, it's really hard to control your golf ball out of the rough, and there's quite a lot of hazards around this golf course. So there's certain key tee shots, like 2 and 9, and the par 4 on the back, maybe 14 or 15, where you have to play out of the fairway or you're really at a disadvantage. So I feel like I have a good game plan for this golf course, and should be a good week.
Great. We'll open it up to questions. If you could raise your hand, we'll bring you a microphone. We'll start with Dave.
First up to cause trouble. When you get to this point in the season, does it in some way feel like a new season because it's the playoffs, sort of like what it would be for NBA or NFL or whatever? It's a second season. Does it feel that way?
I would say a little bit. There's a little bit of a reset, knowing that the points are more, and now we're playing really for FedEx Cup for the end of the year. But with just how it works with the tournaments, I still treat it like it's just another tournament. I've played well in the playoff events in the last few years, so hoping to keep that trend up.
Yeah, I think you won one. So that's playing pretty well. I guess the second part of my question is, if it feels a little different, do you in some ways, gear up more? Although I think it would be hard to gear up more than, say, the majors.
Right.
Do you try to build your game up again?
Definitely try to. You want to be peaking at certain times of the year, and this is definitely one of the times of the year where you want to be peaking. So my game's been better. The trend's been up the last couple of months. So I feel good about where I'm at and playing some tournaments and courses that I feel comfortable at.
Ben?
Just on that and trying to peak through the playoffs, obviously you've done it before, perfected it. The guys coming in at the top this week with the heat and everything else, do you give any credence to sort of staying back to try to peak later, or is it go now?
No, I'd like to go right now. I'm glad I didn't have to play 40 holes on Sunday and then come here and deal with the heat. I don't think I've ever seen a finish like I saw last week at Wyndham. So I think it'll be important to stay rested, stay hydrated, and not overdo yourself. But no, I'd love to get out of the gates early and play well this week.
So should Scheffler and Schauffele maybe just sit back and let you guys run past them?
No, it wouldn't bother me.
Sean, right here in the front.
How did you spend the last couple weeks? Is it a lot of rest? Was there stuff you were trying to address in your game, or what did you do?
I practiced a lot. I was back in Jupiter, and it was nice to be home for a few weeks and just gearing up for the playoffs.
And going to altitude next week, is that something you're able to make the adjustment just Tuesday, Wednesday there with launch monitor, or do you start doing some prep for that last week or even this week, setting the TrackMan to altitude?
I haven't done too much prep in the past for altitude. In general, I'd say compared to most guys, I'm on the higher spin side, especially with driver. So the altitude doesn't bother me too much. I don't have the ball drop out of the sky. And I've played well at places with altitude like Vegas before. We used to play Mexico City, so I don't do too much altitude work until the week of.
Any other questions? Oh, right back here. Thank you.
Hey, Patrick. Xander and Scotty have both had historic years. If you could choose to have one of those years, which one would you choose and why?
You know, I'm sure a lot of people will start to ask themselves that when voting comes for Player of the Year. So I think some of it will, you know, be decided by how they play these next 3 weeks. But Scotty's played unbelievable golf, and you know, with the amount of tournament wins he's had, it's just been super impressive.
We'll come to the back left here.
Hey, Patrick. You took 3 weeks off, but you're also coming out on great 3 starts, your past 3 starts, top 25s and 2 top 5s. And you also played great here last year. What's going to be the key to kind of staying hot in that form, but also maintaining your success from last year here?
Yeah. Well, I feel like, you know, the last couple of months of tournament golf I've played really well. And I've given myself some chances. My game's been better. And so this week, you know, it's not too complicated. It's really an execution contest out there. And it looks like we're going to get really good weather. So that makes it even more of an execution contest. So picking the right targets and honestly staying patient around this golf course, it can sneak up and get you quick if you don't play it correctly. But if you play methodically, I feel like you can shoot 3, 4, 5 under every day and have a chance to win come Sunday.
Thank you. Oh, another one from Sean.
You said your game's been better. What's been better?
I was just hitting it better, holing more putts. You know, I wasn't having the results I'm used to or want towards the middle part of this year. And, you know, like I'm sure many before me, just work really hard and make a few tweaks to your game and things get better. I mean, and now I feel like I'm on the other side and building some momentum. So it's nice to have some time off at home to kind of work on that stuff that, you know, got me going in the right direction, and now have 3 weeks in a row where I can apply it.
You look at the results, and they're a lot better after Memorial, and it's traditionally a place you play really well. Mm-hmm. Was there anything that happened that you worked on in the weekend at Memorial or after that to play well into Pinehurst?
Nothing in particular at Memorial. You know, I tried to address some things after the West Coast in my golf swing, and it just doesn't happen overnight. So it takes, you know, it took a few months of hard work to make it better and make it feel more normal, and still working on those things now, but it feels a lot easier and a lot better than it did, you know, a number of months ago.
Do you prefer a place like this where there's a very clear penalty of there's just water and places you can't go, or do you like places with a little more subtlety? And do you address this golf course indifferently because there are just very dramatic penalties in places you can't go?
I think you have to address it differently. I think there's certain shots that, unless the situation really requires it, you just don't take the shot on, and making par and going to the next hole is a good score. Not every week's like that. You know, my favorite golf course on tour is quite the opposite. Like Riviera is my favorite golf course of the year. There's no hazards, and it's all about leaving your golf ball in the correct spots and playing the correct shapes into certain hole locations. This week's more target golf, but that's what makes it interesting out here. We play all different types of grasses and weathers and conditions, so it's about getting your mindset in the right spot to adapt for that week.
Okay. Go to Bob.
It's been a while since we've heard much about what's going on behind the scenes with your other duties as a board rep. Mm-hmm. Has it quieted down, or has it been just as consistent as it seemed to be before? And do you see an end in sight?
Well, it's definitely quieted down, and I agree with you. There hasn't been as much chatter the last few months, which has been nice. And I think that's just, you know, kind of the nature of it. You know, there's going to be ebbs and flows depending on what kind of information comes out or what announcements. When you say, you know, end in sight, it's always evolving. The PGA Tour's always been changing. Sports are always changing and trying to evolve and get better. So depends what you mean by you know, what you define as the finish line. But I know all of us are working incredibly hard all the time to get the best outcome.
I guess I would ask, a deal, or maybe even if there's not a deal, like saying that there's not going to be one. Like,
sure.
Is that finish line close, do you think? Or do you think we have months to go still? Maybe even not even this year?
Yeah, I'm not on the transaction committee, so I'm not totally up to date with where everything's at currently. But whenever we do get a meaningful update, that'll come back to the board, and then I'm sure we'll have a discussion about it.
Thank you.
All right. If there's no further questions, we'll let you go. Thank you for coming and good luck this week.
Thank you.